Welcome back, guys, and today we're going to talk about the best Anime Vanguards Update 6.5 tier list, where we cover all the new units and maybe make some revamps on the current meta, again based on my opinion. By the way, guys, our goal is to reach 100k subscribers in the AB Plays channel, and if you want to support us and get us to our goal, then you can click that like and subscribe button right now and be part of the OG subscribers of AB Plays before I reach 100k subscribers. This is all due to you guys, so if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and let's get started. I would like to first preface this tier list by first saying that my tier list is my opinion only, and in my opinion, it is the best because I tested these units. But at this point in the current Anime Vanguards meta, the current meta is pretty much subjective at this point, especially at the top. It's very, very subjective. So you guys can make your own tier list and make your own suggestions, but this one is my own. So as you guys can see right here, I have pretty much my update 6 tier list right here. I'll be making a few changes to this one, which is going to start right now. I am now going to be removing Diavolo from the top tier units. I put him there back then because he was a Vanguard, but now I just realized he's not really deserving of this spot. So I'll probably put him below Roku Super 3 and higher than Boo Evil, and I'll be putting Rojita above Lefelt. And Lefelt did get a nerf, so her DPS is no longer that high, and apart from her DPS no longer being that high, she has no immunity to anything. She needs a familiar to basically keep her DPS as decently high. You need Monarch on her as well. She's a Monarch merchant basically, and you need to manage her a lot, so that's why she's still going to be here. And as a matter of fact, I'm actually going to put these two ahead of Lefelt, and this is because Lefelt again has been nerfed quite significantly, and her abilities are no longer as good as before. I'll put Dante ahead of Virgil right now because there's now a nerf to Virgil. His follow-up attacks are no longer full AoE, which means in my opinion that Dante is now much better than Virgil. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the changes in the meta. Oh, and last thing, I'll probably remove Saber King of Knights and put her at top of great units, and this is because what was keeping her at meta back then was she was a great starter, she had repulse, but now there's a bunch of better starters, there's a bunch of better repulse units. There's really not that much point in putting her in meta anymore because her DPS is no longer as high, and the main thing she did has now been replaced by a bunch of other units, so she no longer deserves to be that high. All the other units that are in meta right now are pretty unique in the sense that what they're doing has not yet been done by other units, or their DPS is still pretty relevant, or they have immunities to everything. Now, here are the new units that have been added in this update. We have Kaga, Hibanao, Slime King, Invincible, Arc, Rudy, and then Merlin. Those are the 7 new units added in this update, and we're gonna start with Merlin, which is in my opinion a pretty great support. I already have her right now, so I'm going to show you guys what she does. She blocks 3 single status effects from being applied to this unit or any unit in a range of 40%, which means that she can block status effects. So I believe that counts stun. I don't know if it counts debuffs. I'm not really too sure on that, but I know it buffs stuns at the very least. It could potentially block energy drain as well. And she has absolute negation, which inflicts all enemies on the map with nullify, which is actually pretty good. Absolute negation is only a one-time use. Her passive also allows her to block 3 single status effects, which again is pretty good, but I don't think it's really enough to put her really high into the meta support category. So I think for that reason alone, she's not really going to be going very high into meta support, and probably will be lower than Fubuki. That's genuinely where I'm going to put, actually no, lower than Orihime, because Orihime actually has some pretty decent uses. Actually might even be lower than Medea, but we're not going to go there. I just don't think she's that great of a support unit because yeah, I already explained why. Now, Rudy is one of the most powerful units in this update, like genuinely one of the most powerful units. Now, I can classify Rudy as a support because of his passives, which we are going to take a look at right now. Now, one of his passives is he has a mana meter that regenerates every second, but that's not really the thing that you have to take into consideration for support. The second passive, Family Man, is the important one, right? When mana falls below 10%, he will buff all allies in range by plus 15% damage and 10% range for 30 seconds. You can basically keep this up for forever because all you really have to do is set it so that he will attack and remove his mana every like maybe few seconds, and you will genuinely just keep this buff forever, pretty much at that point. So this is a really, really great support capability. There are very few units in the game who can buff a unit by 15% damage. Genuinely, there's only a few units in the game that can buff a unit for 15% damage on placement. So with that being said, Rudius's 15% buff to your units is genuinely insanely high. And not only that, his first passive, and this is where the DPS stuff comes in, allows him to do an insane amount of damage, especially if you have Monarch on him. He is around 100,000 to max, but that doesn't really matter because he's an insane support and he's also an insane DPS unit. And in my opinion, he is one of the most versatile units in this update. A lot of the other units in this update, except for Kaga, is DPS only. While Rudy can do both DPS, has immunity, some form of immunity to stun because he can dodge, and can also buff allies. That's genuinely insane. And with that alone, that genuinely leads me to just placing this unit to a very, very high place. So right now, I'm going to be placing Rudy Prodigy pretty high into meta, although I could probably place him into support. I just think that because he has too high of a DPS, and yeah, he genuinely does have a high DPS, this unit is also full AoE. I just can't put him at support because that would discredit the insane amount of DPS that he has. But I'll take his support passives or his support abilities into consideration and put him really, really high into meta units. Next one is going to be Arc. And Arc, I genuinely think is pretty decent, but it's not going to be in meta. Now, for those saying that Arc has insane summons, the summons of this unit is essentially a one-time only, and that's because that's how her passive works. I'm not really gonna go into it. Maybe when I do a showcase on her, I'll go into that. But her summons are essentially a one-time only, unless you're in Infinite and you can sell and, you know, build up her passive or build up her upgrade again. So for that reason, I think I'll probably put her below these units right here. Like actually below these units right here. So we have Invincible right here, and this is where, you know, I placed him. Now the thing is with Invincible, he's just a DPS unit. That's pretty much his entire thing. He is a full AoE DPS unit that can deal insane amounts of damage with Monarch. And without Monarch, I don't think this unit is actually going to be worth bringing. Now, you will still deal some decent DPS without Monarch, but he is one of those units that will require Monarch to reach his full potential. But he does deal an insane amount of damage. And for that reason alone, I'm going to put him ahead of Rudy right now. So Mark is gonna be right there for now. Then we have Slime King, who I'm going to be putting above Ragna because he's basically Ragna 2.0. Now, here's what I'm gonna say about this. Ragna has a higher peak DPS if you bring units that will support and buff his damage. Ragna has a higher peak DPS than Slime King. But Slime King requires no buffs. You know, he can do good even just on his own. And he's a full AoE unit, and it costs only around 70,000 to 100k to max all four of them because of his passive. And that alone makes Slime King a really, really powerful unit because 4 full AoE units under 100k doing 30,000 to 40,000 DPS traitless is insanely powerful. But he has no immunities to stun, which is very sad. No immunities to debuff, which is very sad. And again, his only thing is pretty much just DPS. But since he is a traitless unit and you don't really need Monarch, and actually you don't want Monarch on this unit, I think Slime King will be in the meta for quite a long time because he will be really, really good in any traitless game mode. He will be amazing for anything traitless because of the passive that he has. And for that reason, he's going to be in the meta. Now we have Hibanao, which is going to be a support unit for flame units. That's all I really know about Hibanao right now, to be honest with you. And I'm going to be putting him right below Fubuki. Now, I don't really know that much about Hibanao right now. I just know that he can be applied burn. And I don't really know how good that is yet. Maybe I'll cover that in my video where I showcase all the exclusive units. But all I know is that she's a support unit. All I know is that she's a support unit. I don't really know that much about her yet, so her position might change, but this is where I'm placing her right now. Now, the number 1 unit in the game, Kaga. Actually, not the number 1 unit in the game. The number 1 unit in the update, Kaga, which I'm going to be putting at the number 2 spot. You know, you might be asking me, why the number 2 spot? The reason why I'm going to be putting Kaga in the number 2 spot is because Kaga is effectively a Monarch merchant. Now, don't get me wrong, Kaga is still a meta unit if she doesn't have Monarch, but she becomes more a meta support unit than a meta overall unit if she doesn't have Monarch. Now with Monarch, her DPS becomes insanely high. Without Monarch, she becomes too expensive to use as a DPS unit and is basically now just a support unit. You genuinely cannot upgrade her because she's a one placement unit and she costs around 160,000 to max. And if you don't have Monarch on her, she's just not worth using as a DPS unit, which is why I'm putting units like Sung Jin-woo ahead of her, because Sung Jin-woo will do a lot more traitless than Kaga will traitless, even though Kaga is still insanely good traitless. And as I said, without traits on Kaga, she's still a meta support unit. Now that's pretty much going to be my placement on Kaga, but obviously if you're going to just take them with the peak, potential that they have and basically give them their traits, if you compare Sung Jin-woo and Kaga, Monarch to Monarch, Kaga will beat Sung Jin-woo by a mile. But since Kaga is a Monarch merchant, in order to become a meta DPS unit, I just can't bring myself to put her over Sung Jin-woo Vanguard. That's basically my reasoning with why she's behind Sung Jin-woo. But honestly, this really doesn't matter that much because everyone is gonna be rolling on Kaga when they get her, and everybody is saving for Kaga when they get Kaga. So most people probably have Monarch on her anyways. So this might not even be that big of a problem. But because she requires Monarch to really reach her full potential DPS, and cannot do as much as Sung Jin-woo traitless, I will not be putting her at the top of this tier list, unfortunately. All in all, this is the final tier list right here. I actually forgot to enter Not Good Guy, so he wasn't in majority of this tier list, but Not Good Guy is right here. And this is the tier list. This is the placement of all the new units. I'll just recap it. Kaga is over here. Rudy is over there. Invincible's over there. Rimuru is right there. So that's already 4 units out of the 7. And then we have Arc right there, so 5. Then we have 2 supports, which is Hibanao and Merlin, so that's 6 and 7 right there. So that's pretty much the placements of the units and the placement of the other top units in the game. So that's pretty much it, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and peace out everybody. Hope you enjoyed this tier list.